Hey vlog, welcome to my vlog. Today is the 111 and I just saw the second 111. Could the universe be trying to tell me something? So the last time I vlogged was in day I think 109. So ever since then I've not vlogged. I've also not been able to talk physically on here, majorly probably because I've been busy with work, but I at least vlogged the work days. The thing that I didn't do was to verbally talk on here. But yes, here I am. It's been raining. Today has been raining, day 111 of 365. It's currently 12:56 in the PM, and I'm planning to go to the cyber. But before going to the cyber, I want us to read a book. I want to read a book for 1 hour so that it can be part of the vlog for day 111. And even if I don't even continue vlogging, at least this is, I'd say, a vlog. So I want us to read this book. This is a new book. It's called Taltos, Lives of the Mayfair Witches by Anne Rice. I've never been able to read this book seriously, but I feel like if we read it on here till completion, and I've also been wanting to read it, it's going to be interesting. Yeah. So I want us to read for 1 hour, and then I can go to the cyber cafe, and upload the vlogs that I haven't uploaded yet. So yeah, I hope you guys have been well. I hope you've been looking in. I haven't been looking in regards to seriously vlogging, but I'm going through some a whirlwind, not a very strong whirlwind, but anticipate that things will be okay because I've been putting my best foot forward. It might not be my best foot forward, but at least I'm trying. I'm not at the same place that I was yesterday in regards to trying to put my best foot forward. And I also hope that you've also been trying. We need to try in this life. We only live once, and so we need to try with the aim of giving it our best and wanting the best for ourselves and everyone around us and the generations to come. Yeah. So yeah, I hope you've been staying locked in focused. Ever since my birthday month, I've been feeling relaxed, but now it's time to get back to business. Because even my phone storage was acting up, but now that it's freed up, right now it's around 98 MBs out of 98 GB out of 120. So there's at least some space where I can vlog and archive my memories on here. Yeah. So I wish to wish you a very beautiful day 111 and the days to come. We still have a lot of days in between 111 and 365 days of 2026 to make an impact in our lives. Yeah. So let's not fumble that. I'm in a position where I fumbled a bag in regards to money and I would not want to go back there. But they say you need to fail fast. Fail FAST. Fail haraka ujue alafu uendelee na safari. Yeah, so I've been napping for 4 minutes. Guys, also please consider to subscribe, like and comment if you enjoy my archived videos, my memories. So yeah, I wish to start this book and see where it leads us. Yeah. So we'll be reading this book alongside Unstoppable by Maria Sharapova. Yeah. So I think we should start in the beginning. So in the beginning it says, dedicated with love to Stan Christopher and Michelle Rice, to John Preston, and to Margaret and Stanley Rice Sr. Then it goes ahead and says, the Garden of Love. I went to the Garden of Love and saw what I never had seen. A chapel was built in the midst where I used to play on the green. And the gates of this chapel were shut, and thou shalt not right over the door. Before we continue, let's set the timer. I forgot to set the timer. So we set the timer for 1 hour. Then after 1 hour, she'll be at 2 p.m. We can go to the cyber and upload, right? So we've started exactly 1 p.m. So I'll put you over here. Setting up the microphone is really such a challenge. So let's begin. Let's be comfortable. So, and the gates of this chapel were shut, and thou shalt not right over the door. So I turned to the garden of love, that so many sweet flowers bore, and I saw it was filled with graves and tombstones where flowers should be, and priests in black gowns were walking their rounds and binding with barriers my joys and desires. From Songs of Experience, William Blake. So chapter 1, it had not snowed all day. As the darkness fell very close and quickly, he stood at the window looking down on the tiny figures in Central Park. A perfect circle of light fell on the snow beneath each lamp. Skaters moved on the frozen lake, though he could not make them out in detail, and cars pushed sluggishly. And cars pushed the Kikuyu in me. The cars pushed and cars pushed sluggishly over the dark roads. To his right and his left, the skyscrapers in Midtown crowded near him, but nothing came between him and the park, except that is for a jungle of lower buildings, rooftops with gardens, and great black hulking pieces of equipment, and sometimes even pointed roofs. He loved this view. It always surprised him when others found it so unusual, when a workman coming to fix an office machine would volunteer that he'd never seen New York like this before. Said that there was no marble tower for everyone, that there was no series of towers to which all the people could go to look out at varying heights. Make a note, build a series of towers which have no function except to be parks in the sky for the people. Use all the beautiful marbles which you so love. Maybe he will do that this year. Very likely he would do it. And the libraries. He wanted to establish more of this, and that would mean some travel. But he would do all this, yes, and soon. After all, the parks are almost completed now, and the little schools had been opened in 7 cities. The carousels had been opened in 20 different places. Granted, the animals were synthetic, but each was a meticulous and indestructible reproduction of a famous European hand-carved masterpiece. People loved the carousels, but it was a time for a spate of new plans. The winter had caught him dreaming. In the last century, he had put into material form 100 such ideas that this year's little triumph had their comforting charm. He had made an antique carousel within this building, all of the original old horses, lions, and such that had provided mold for his replicas. The Museum of Classic Automobiles now filled one level of the basement. The public flocked to see the Model T, the Stats beer carts, the MGTDs with their wire wheels. And of course, there were the doll museums in large, well-lit rooms on 2 floors above the lobby, the company showcase filled with the dolls he'd collected from all parts of the world, and the private museum, open only now and then, including the dolls which he himself had personally cherished. Now and then, he slipped downstairs to watch the people talk through the crowds, never unnoticed, but at least unknown. A creature 7 feet in height can't avoid the eyes of people. That had been true forever. But another amusing thing had happened in the last 200 years. Human beings had gotten taller, and now, miracle of miracles, even at his height, he did not stand out so very much. People gave him a second glance, of course, but they weren't afraid of him anymore. Indeed, occasionally, a human male came into the building who was in fact taller than he was. Yuko hapo kwa hizo hooks. Sijui kwa wapi. Angalia kwa Kamau. Indeed, occasionally, a human male came into the building who was in fact taller than he was. Of course, the staff would alert him. They thought it one of his little quirks that he wanted such people reported to him. They found it amusing. He didn't mind. He liked to see people smile and laugh. Mr. Ash, there's a tall one down here. Camera 5. He'd turn to the bank of small glowing screens and quickly catch sight of the individual, only human. He usually knew for certain right away. Once in a great while, he wasn't sure of it, and he went down in the silent, speeding elevator and walked near to the person long enough to ascertain from a score of details that this was only a man. Other dreams, small play buildings for children, made exquisitely out of space-age plastics with rich and intricate detail. He saw small cathedrals, castles, palaces, perfect replicas of the larger architectural treasures, produced with lightning speed and cost-effective, as the board would put it. There would be numerous sizes, from dwellings for dolls to houses which children could enter themselves, and carousel houses for sale, made of wood resin, which almost anyone could afford. Hundreds could be given to schools, hospitals, other such institutions. Then there was the ongoing obsession. Truly beautiful dolls for poor children, dolls that could not break and could be cleaned with ease, but that he had been working on, more or less, since the new century dawned. For the last 5 years, he had produced cheaper and cheaper dolls superior to those before them, dolls of new chemical materials, dolls that were durable and lovable. Yet still, they cost too much for poor children. This year, he would try something entirely different. He had plans on the drawing board, a couple of promising prototypes, perhaps. He felt a consoling, warm still through him as he thought of these many projects, for they would take him hundreds of years. Long ago, in ancient times as they called them, he had dreamed of monuments, great circles of stone for all to see, a dance of giants in the high grass of the plain. Even modest towers had obsessed him for decades, and once the lettering of beautiful books had taken all his joy for centuries. But in these playthings of the modern world, these dolls, these tiny images of people, not children really, for dolls never really did look like children, he had found a strange and challenging obsession. Monuments were for those who traveled to see them. The dolls and toys he refined and manufactured reached. Monuments were for those who traveled to see them. The dolls and toys were refined and manufactured, reached every country on the globe. Indeed, machines had made all sorts of new and beautiful objects available for people of all nations. The rich, impoverished, those in need of comfort or sustenance and shelter, those kept in sanitariums and asylums, which they could never leave. His company had been his redemption. Even his wildest and most daring ideas had been put into successful production. Indeed, he did not understand why other toy companies made so few innovations. Why cookie cutter dolls with vapid faces lined the shelves of emporiums? Why the ease of manufacture had not produced a wildness of originality and invention? Unlike his joyless colleagues, with each of his triumphs, he had taken greater risks. It didn't make him happy to drive others out of the market. No, competition was still something he could only grasp intellectually. His secret belief was that the number of potential buyers in today's world was unlimited. There was room for anyone marketing anything of worth. And within these walls, within this soaring and dangerous tower of steel and glass, he enjoyed his triumphs in a state of pure bliss, which he could share with no one else. No one else, only the dolls could share it. The dolls who stood on the glass shelves against the walls of colored marble. The dolls who stood on pedestals in the corners. The dolls who clustered together on his broad wooden desk. His brew, his princess, his French beauty, a century old, she was his most enduring witness. Not a day passed that he didn't go down to the second floor of the building and visit the brew, a bisque darling of impeccable standards, 3 feet tall, her mohair curls intact, her painted face a masterpiece, her torso and wooden legs as perfect now as they were when the French company had manufactured her for the Paris market of over 100 years ago. That had been her allure, that she was a thing for hundreds of children to enjoy. A pinnacle had been reached in her, of craft and mass production. Even her factory clothes of silk represented that special achievement, not for one, but for many. There had been years when, wandering the world, he had carried her with him, taking her out of the suitcase, at times just to look into her glass eyes, just to tell her his thoughts, his feelings, his dreams. In the night, in squalid, lonely rooms, he had seen the light gleam in her ever-watchful eyes, and now she was housed in glass, and thousands saw her yearly, and all the other antique brew dolls now clustered around her. Sometimes he wanted to sneak her upstairs, put her on a bedroom shelf, but who would care? Who would dare say anything? All surrounds one with a blessed silence, he thought. People think before they speak. They feel they have to. He could talk to the doll again if he wanted to. In the museum, he was silent when they met, the glass of the case surrounding them. Patiently, she waited to be reclaimed, the humble inspiration of his empire. Of course, this company of his, this enterprise of his, as it was so often called by papers and magazines, was predicated on the development of an industrial and mechanical matrix which had existed now for only 300 years. What if war were to destroy it? But dolls and toys gave him such sweet happiness that he imagined he would never hereafter be without them. Even if war reduced the world to rubble, he would make little figures of wood or clay and paint them himself. Sometimes he saw himself this way, alone in the ruins. He saw New York as it might have appeared in a science fiction movie, dead and silent and filled with overturned columns and broken pediments and shattered glass. He saw himself sitting on a broken stone stairway, making a doll from sticks and tying it together with bits of cloth which he took carefully and respectfully from dead woman's silk dress. He would never, but who would have imagined that such things would have caught his fancy? That wandering a century ago, through a wintry street in Paris, he would turn and gaze into a shop window, into the glass eyes of his bro, and fall passionately in love. Of course, his breed had always been known for its capacity to play, to cherish, to enjoy. Perhaps it was not at all surprising. Though studying a breed when you are one of the only surviving specimens of it was a tricky situation, especially for one who could not love medical physiology or terminology, whose memory was good but far from preternatural, whose sense of the past was often deliberately relinquished to a childlike immersion in the present, and a general fear of thinking in terms of millennia or eons, or whatever people wanted to call the great spans of time, which he himself had witnessed, lived through, struggled to endure, and finally cheerfully forgotten in this great enterprise suited to his few and special talents. Nevertheless, he did study his own breed, making and recording meticulous notes on himself, and he was not good at predicting the future, or so he felt. A low hum came to his ears. He knew it was the coils beneath the marble floor, gently hitting the room around him. He fancied he could feel the heat coming up through his shoes. It was never chilly or smotheringly hot in his tower. The coils took care of him. If only such comfort could belong to the entire world outside. If only all could know abundant food, warmth. His company sent millions in aid to those who lived in deserts and jungles across the seas, but he was never really sure who received what, who benefited. In the first days of motion pictures and later television, he had thought war would end, hunger would end. People could bear to see it on the screen before them. How foolish a thought. People could not bear to see it on the screen before them. How foolish a thought. There seems to be more war and more hunger now than ever. On every continent, tribe fought tribe. Millions starved. So much to be done. Why make such careful choices? Why not do everything? The snow had begun again, with flakes so tiny he could barely see them. They appeared to melt when they hit the dark streets below, but those streets were some 60 floors down. He couldn't be certain. Half-melted snow was piled in the gutters and on the nearby roofs. In a little while, things would be freshly white again. Perhaps in this sealed and warm room, one could imagine the entire city dead and ruined, as if by pestilence which did not crumble buildings, but killed the warm-blooded beings which lived within them, like termites in wooden walls. The sky was black. That was the one thing he didn't like about snow. You lost the city, you lost the sky when you had it. And he did so love the skies over New York City, the full panoramic skies, which the people in the streets never really saw. Towers, build them towers, he said. Make a big museum high in the sky with terraces around it. Bring them up in glass elevators. Heaven wants to see. Towers of pleasure among all these towers that men had built for commerce and gain. And that took him suddenly, an old thought, really, that often came to him and prodded him to meditate and perhaps even to surmise. The first writings in all the world had been commercial lists of goods bought and sold. Wow, this was what was in the cuneiform tablets found at Jericho inventories. The same had been true at Messenia. No one had thought it important then to write down his or her ideas or thoughts. Buildings had been wholly different. The grandest were houses of worship, temples or great mud brick ziggurats faced in limestone which men had claimed to sacrifice to the gods. The circle of Saracens on the Salisbury Plain. Now, 7,000 years later, the greatest buildings were commercial buildings. They were inscribed with the names of banks, of great corporations, or immense private companies such as his own. From his window, he could see these names burning in bright coarse block letters through the snowy sky, through the dark that wasn't really dark. As for temples and places of worship, they were relics or almost not. Somewhere down there, he could pick out the staples of St. Patrick's if he tried. But it was a shrine now to the past more than a vibrant center of communal religious spirit, and it looked quaint, reaching to the skies amid the tall, indifferent glass buildings around it. It was majestic only from the streets. The scribes of Jericho would have understood this shift, he thought. On the other hand, perhaps they would not. He barely understood it himself, yet the implications seemed mammoth and more wonderful than human beings knew. This commerce, this endless multiplicity of beautiful and useful things could save the world, ultimately, if only planned obsolescence, mass destruction of last year's goods, the rush to antiquate or render irrelevant others' designs. It was the result of a tragic lack of vision. Only the most limited implications of the marketplace theory were to blame for it. The real revolution came not in the cycle of make and destroy, but in a great inventive and endless expansion. Only dichotomies had to fall. Old dichotomies had to fall. In his darling brew and her factory assembled parts of the pocket calculators carried by millions on the streets. In the light, beautiful stroke of rolling ball pens, in $5 Bibles, and in toys, beautiful toys sold on drugstore shelves for pennies, rarely salvation. It seemed he could get his mind around it. He could penetrate it, make tight, easily explainable theories, if only. Mr. Ash. It was a soft voice that interrupted him. Nothing more was required. He trained them all. Don't make a sound in the door. Speak quietly, I'll hear you. And this voice came from Remick, who was gentle by nature, an Englishman with a little Celtic blood, though Remick didn't know it. A manservant who had been indispensable in this last decade, though the time would soon come when, for security's sake, Remick must be sent away. Mr. Ash, the young woman's here. Thank you, Remick, he said in a voice that was even softer than that of his servant. In the dark window glass, if he let himself, he could see Remick's reflection, a comely man with small, very brilliant blue eyes. They were too close together, these eyes, but the face was not unattractive, and it wore always a look of such quiet and dramatic devotion that he had grown to love it, to love Remick himself. There were lots of dolls in the world with eyes too close together. In particular, the French dolls made years ago by Jumer and Smith and Sons and Huret and Petit and de Montier, with moon faces and glimmering glass eyes, crowding their little porcelain noses with mouths so tiny they seemed at first glance to be tiny birds or bee stings. Everybody loved the dolls, the bee sting queens. When you loved dolls and studied them, you started to love all kinds of people too, because you saw the virtue of the expressions, how carefully they had been sculpted, the parts contrived to create the triumph of this or that remarkable face. Sometimes he walked through Manhattan, deliberately seeing every face as made, no nose, no ear, no wrinkle accidental. She's having some tea, sir. She was terribly cold when she arrived. We didn't send a car for her, Remick. Yes, sir, but she's cold nevertheless. It's very cold outside, sir. But it's warm in the museum, surely. You took her there, didn't you? Sir, she came up directly. She's so excited, you understand. He turned, throwing one bright gleam of a smile, and so he hoped it was on Remick, and then waving him away with the smallest gesture that the man could see. He walked to the door of the adjoining office, across the floor of Carrara marble, and looked beyond that room to yet another, also paved as were all his rooms, in shining marble, where the young woman sat alone at the desk. He could see her profile. He could see that she was anxious. He could see that she wanted the tea, but then she didn't. She didn't know what to do with her hands. Sir, you're here. Will you allow me? Remick touched his arm. Must we? Yes, sir. We really ought to. Remick had his soft little brush out, the kind that men used because they could not be seen using the same kind of brush as women. And reaching up, Remick brought it quickly and firmly through his hair that ought to be trimmed and cut. Remick had said, hair that fell sloppily and defiantly over his collar. Remick stood back, rolling on the balls of his feet. Now you look splendid, Mr. Ash, he said with raised eyebrows, even if it is a bit long. He made a soft chuckle. You're afraid I'll frighten her, aren't you? He asked teasingly, affectionately. Surely you didn't really care what she thinks. Surely you don't really care what she thinks. Sir, I care that you look your best always, for your own benefit. Of course you do, he said quietly. I love you for that. He walked towards the young man, and as she drew closer, he made a polite and decent amount of noise. Slowly, he turned her head, she looked up, and she saw him, and they came the inevitable shock. He extended his hands as he approached. She rose beaming and she clasped his hands. Warm, firm grip. She looked at his hands and the fingers and the palms. I surprise you, Miss Paget, he asked, offering her his most gracious smile. My hair has been groomed for your approval. Do I look so very bad? Mr. Ash, you look fabulous, she said quietly. She had a crisp California-style voice. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that you would be so tall. Of course, everyone said you were. And do I look like a kindly man, Miss Paget? They say this of me too. He spoke slowly. Often Americans could not understand his British accent. Oh yes, Mr. Ash, she said, very kindly. And your hair is so nice and long. I love your hair, Mr. Ash. This was really very gratifying, very amusing. He hoped that Remick was listening. But wealth makes people withhold judgment on what you have done. It makes them search for the good in your choices, your style. It brings out not the obscure, but the more thoughtful side of humans, at least sometimes. She was plainly telling the truth. Her eyes feasted on him, and he loved it. He gave her hands a tender squeeze, and then he let them go. As he moved around the desk, he took her seat again, eyes still locked up upon him. Her own face was narrow and deeply lined for one so young. Her eyes were bluish violet. She was beautiful in her own way, ashen-haired, disheveled yet graceful in exquisitely crushed old clothes. Yet, yes, don't throw them away. Sell them from the thrift shop rack. Reinvent them with nothing more than a few stitches and an iron. The destiny of manufactured things lies in durability and changing contexts. Crushed silk beneath fluorescent light, elegant tatters with buttons of plastic in color never achieved within geological strata, with stockings of such strong nylon they could have been made into braided rope of incalculable strength if only people didn't rip them off and toss them into waste baskets. So many things to do, ways to see. If he had the contents of every waste basket in Manhattan, he could make another billion just from what he would find there. I admire your work, Miss Paget, he said. It's a pleasure to meet you at least. He gestured to the top of the desk. It was littered with large color photographs of her dolls. Was it possible she hadn't noticed this? She seemed overcome with pleasure, her cheeks reddening. Perhaps she was even a little infatuated with his style and manner. He wasn't sure. He did tend to infatuate people, sometimes without trying to do it. Mr. Ash, Mr. Ash, she said, this is one of the most important days of my life. She said it as if trying to realize it, and then she became silently flustered, perhaps because she thought she had said too much in saying what really mattered. He let his smile brighten and dipped his head slightly, as he often did, at what people remarked on, and so that he appeared to be looking up at her for a moment, though he was much taller than she. I want your dolls, Miss Paget, he said. All of them. I'm very pleased with what you've done. You've worked so well in all the new materials. Your dolls aren't like anyone's else. That's what I want. She was smiling in spite of herself. It was always a thrilling moment, this, for them and for him. He loved making her happy. Have many lawyers presented everything? Have many lawyers presented everything? Are you quite sure of the terms? Yes, Mr. Ash, I understand everything. I accept your offer completely. This is my dream. Wow. That's beautiful. She said the last word with gentle emphasis, and this time she did not flutter or blush. Miss Paget, you need someone to bargain for you, he scolded. But if I've never cheated anyone, I don't remember it, and I would honestly like to be remembered so that I could correct what I've done. I'm yours, Mr. Ash, she said. Her eyes had brightened, but they were not filling with tears. The terms are generous. The materials are dazzling. The methods, she gave a little shake of her head. Well, I don't really understand the mass production methods, but I know your dolls. I have been hanging around in the stores, just looking at everything marked by Ashla. I know this is simply going to be great. Like so many, she had made her dolls in her kitchen, then in a garage workroom, firing the clay in a kiln she could barely afford. She had haunted flea markets for her fabrics. She had taken her inspiration from figures in motion pictures and in novels. Her works had been one of a kind and limited edition, the sort of thing they liked in exclusive doll shops and galleries. She had won awards, both large and small. But her molds could be used now for something utterly different. 500,000 beautiful renditions of one doll, and another, out of a vinyl so skillfully worked that it would look as lovely as porcelain, with eyes painted as brilliantly as if they were real glass. But what about the names, Miss Paget? Why won't you choose the doll names? The dolls have never had names for me, Mr. Ash, she said, and the names you chose are fine. You know you'll be rich soon, Miss Paget. So they tell me, she said. She seemed suddenly vulnerable, indeed fragile. But you have to keep your appointments with us. You have to approve each step. It won't take so much time, really. I'm going to love it, Mr. Ash. I want to see anything that you make. Immediately call us. Yes, but don't be sure you will enjoy the process here. As you have observed, manufacture is not the same thing as crafting or creating. Well, it is, but seldom do people see it that way. Artists don't always see mass production as an ally. He did not have to explain his old reasoning that he did not care for the one-of-a-kinds and limited editions, that he cared only for dolls that could belong to everyone, and he would take less molds of us, and he would produce dolls from them year after year, varying them only when there seemed a reason to do it. Everyone knew this about him now, that he had no interest in elitist values or ideas. Any questions about contracts, Miss Paget? Don't hesitate to put questions directly to me. Mr. Ash, I'll send the contracts. She gave another little ripple of laughter, distinctly careless and young. I'm so glad, Miss Paget, he said. Prepare to be famous. He brought up his hands and folded them on the desk. Naturally, she was looking at them and was wondering at their immense size. Mr. Ash, I know you're busy. Our appointment's for 15 minutes. He nodded as if to say, this is not important, go on. Let me ask, why do you like my dolls? I mean, really, Mr. Ash, I mean, he thought for a moment. Of course, there's a stock answer. He said, which is wholly true, that your dolls are original, as you've said, but what I like, Miss Paget, is that your dolls are all smiling broadly. Their eyes are crinkled, their faces are in motion. They have shining teeth, you can almost hear them laugh. This story makes me think of Labubus. I don't know why. Probably because it's about dolls, and the Labubus are so very, like, whatever she's explaining here is bringing the Labubu picture in my head, because Labubus look like this. They smile broadly, shiny teeth. That was a risk, Mr. Ash. Suddenly, her self laughed and looked for 1 second as happy as her creations. I know, Miss Budget. Are you perhaps going to make me some very sad children now? I don't know if I can. Make what you want. I'm behind you. Don't make sad children. Too many other artists do that well. He started to rise slowly, the signal of dismissal, and he wasn't surprised when she rushed to her feet. Thank you, Mr. Ash, she said again, reaching for his hand, his huge, long-fingered hand. I can't tell you how much. You don't have to. He let her take his hand. Sometimes people didn't want to touch him a second time. Sometimes they knew he wasn't a human. Never repelled by his face, it seemed. They were often repelled by his big feet and hands. Or deep in their subconscious, they realized his neck was just a little too long, his ears too narrow. Humans are skilled at recognizing their own kind, tribe, clan, family. A great part of the human brain is organized around merely recognizing and remembering types of faces. She was not repelled, merely young and overwhelmed and anxious about simple transactions. And by the way, Mr. Ash, if you don't mind my saying it, the white streaks in your hair are very becoming. I hope you don't ever color them out. White hair is always becoming on a young man. Now, what made you say that, Miss Paget? She flushed once more, but then gave in to laughter. I don't know, she admitted. It's just that the hair is so white and you're so young. I didn't expect you to be so young. That's what is so surprising. She broke off unsure. He had best release her before she tumbled too quickly into her own imagined failures. Thank you, Miss Paget, he said. You've been very kind, and I've enjoyed talking with you. Reassurance, blunt and memorable. I hope to see you again very soon. I hope you'll be happy. Remick had come to spirit the young woman away. She said something else hastily. Thanks, a vowel of inspiration and determination to please the world. Words to that sweet effect. He gave her one final sober smile as she went out, and the bronze doors were shut behind her. When she got home, of course, she would drag out her magazines. She would do addition on her fingers, maybe even with a calculator. She would realize he wouldn't be young, not by anyone's count. She'd conclude he was past 40 and carefully fighting 50. That was safe enough. But how must he deal with this in the long run? For the long run was always his problem. Here was a life he loved, but he would have to make adjustments. Oh, he couldn't think of something so awful just now. What if the white hair really began to flourish? That would help, wouldn't it? But what did it really mean, the white hair? What did it reveal? He was too content to think of it, too content to court cold fear. Once again, he turned to the windows and to the falling snow. He could see Central Park as clearly from this office as from the others. He put his hand on the glass, very cold. The skating lake was deserted now. The snow had covered the park and the roof just below him, and he noticed another curious sight, which always made him give a little laugh. It was the swimming pool on top of the Parker Meriden Hotel. Snow fell steadily on the transparent glass roof, while beneath it, a man was swimming back and forth in the brightly illuminated green water, and this was some 50 floors perhaps above the street. Now, that is wealth and that is power. He mused quietly to himself. To swim in the sky in a storm. Build swimming pools in the sky, another worthy project. Mr. Ash, said Remick. Yes, my dear boy, he said absently, watching the long strokes of the swimmer, seeing clearly now that it was an elderly and very thin man. Such a figure would have been the victim of starvation in times past. But this was a physically fit individual. He could see it, a businessman, perhaps not by economic circumstances, in the bitter winter of New York, swimming back and forth in deliciously heated and safely sanitized water. Phone call for you, sir. I don't think so, Remick. I'm tired. It's the snow. It makes me want to curl up in bed and go to sleep. I want to go to bed now, Remick. I want some hot chocolate and then to sleep and sleep. Mr. Ash, the man said you would want to speak to him, that I was to tell you. They all say that, Remick, he answered. Samuel, sir. He said to tell you that name. Samuel. He turned from the window and looked at the manservant, at his placid face. There was no judgment or opinion in his expression, only devotion and quiet acceptance. He said to come to you directly, Mr. Ash, that it was the custom when he called. I took the chance that you did right. You could leave me alone for a little while now. He took his chair at the desk. As the doors closed, he picked up the receiver and pressed the tiny red button. Samuel, he whispered. Ashla. Came the answer, clear as if his friend were truly his ear. You've kept me waiting 15 minutes. How important you've become. Samuel, where are you? Are you in New York? Certainly not, came the reply. I'm in Donnelly's, Ash. I'm at the inn. Phone's in the Glen. It was a low murmur. The voice was coming all the way from Scotland, from the Glen. Yes, old friend, phones in the glen, and other things as well. A Taltos came here. Ash, I saw him, a full Taltos. Wait a minute, it sounded as if you said, I did say this. Don't get too excited about it, Ash. He's dead. He was an infant blundered. It's a long story. There's a gypsy involved in it. A very clever gypsy named Yuri from the Talmaska. The gypsy would be dead right now if it weren't for me. Are you sure the Taltos is dead? The gypsy told me, Ash. The Talmaska is in a dark time. Something tragic had happened with the order. They'll kill this gypsy soon. Perhaps he's determined to go back to the mother house. You must come as soon as you can. Samuel, I'll meet you in Edinburgh tomorrow. No, London. Come directly to London. I promised the gypsy. But come quickly, Ash. If his brother in London catch sight of him, he'll be dead. Samuel, this can't be a correct story. A Talmaska wouldn't do such things to anyone, let alone its own people. Are you sure this gypsy is saying true things? Ash, it has to do with these Taltos. Can you leave now? Yes. You won't fail me? No. Then there's one more thing I must tell you right now. You'll see it in the papers in London as soon as you land. They've been digging here in Donnelly in the ruins of the cathedral. I know this, Samuel. You and I have talked about this before. Ash, they dug up the grave of St. Ashla. They found the name engraved in the stone. You'll see it in the papers, Ashla. Scholars are here from Edinburgh, Ash. There are witches involved in this tale, but the gypsy will tell you. People are watching me. I have to go. Samuel, people are watching you. Wait. Your hair, Ash. I saw you in a magazine. Are those white streaks in your hair? Never mind. Yes, my hair is turning white, but it's happening slowly. I haven't itched otherwise. There are no real shocks for you except the hair. You live till the end of the world, Ash, and be the one to make it crumble. No, Clarice in London. We are living now ourselves. That's a hotel where a man can make a big oak fire in the grate and sleep in a big old cozy bedroom full of chintz and hunter green velvet. I'll be waiting for you there. And Ash, pay the hotel, will you? I've been out here in the glen for 2 years. Someone rang off. Maddening, he whispered. He laid down the phone. For long moments, he looked at the bronze doors. He didn't blink or focus when the doors opened. He scarcely saw the blood-red figure who came into the room. He was not thinking. He was merely repeating the words Taltos and Talmaska inside his head. When he looked up, he saw only Remit pouring chocolate from a small heavy silver pitcher into a pretty china cup. The steam rose in Remit's patient and slightly weary face. Grey hair, now that was grey hair, an entire head of it. I did not have so much grey hair. Indeed, he had only the 2 streaks flowing from his temples and a bit of white in his sideburns, as they were called, and just a tiny touch of white in the dark hair of his chest. Fearfully, he looked down his wrist. There were white hairs there, mingled with dark hair that had covered his arms now so many years. Taltos, Talmaska, the world would crumble. Was it the right thing, sir, the phone call? Asked Remit in that wonderful, nearly inaudible British murmur that his employer loved. Lots of people would have called it a mumble. And we are going now to England. We are going back among all the agreeable gentle people. England, the land of the bitter cold, seen from the coast of the lost land, a mystery of winter forest and snow-capped mountains. I'm tired, but we continue. Yes, indeed, it was the right thing, Ramit. Always come to me directly when it's summer. I have to go to London right now. Then I have to hurry, sir. LaGuardia's been closed all day. It's going to be very difficult. Hurry then, please. Don't say anything further. He sipped the chocolate. Nothing tasted richer to him, sweeter or better, except perhaps unadulterated fresh milk. Another Taltos, he whispered loud. He set down the cup. Dark time in the Talmaska. He wasn't sure. He believed. Remik was gone. The door was closed. The beautiful bronze glimmering as if it were hot. There was a trail of light across the marble floor from the light embedded in the ceiling, rather like the moon on the sea. Another Taltos, and it was Mil. There were so many thoughts racing through his head, such a clutter of emotion. For a moment, he thought he'd give way to tears, but no. It was anger that he felt, anger that once again had been teased by this bit of news that his heart was beating, that he was flying over the sea to learn more about another Taltos who was already dead, a male in Talmaska. So they had come into a dark time, had they? Well, wasn't it inevitable? And what must he do about it? Must he be drawn into this one more time? Centuries ago, he had knocked on their door, but who among them knew this now? Who? Their scholars he knew by face and name, only because he feared them enough to keep track of them. Over the years, they had never stopped coming to Glen. Someone knew something, but nothing ever really changed. Why did he feel he owed them some protective intervention now? Because they had once opened their doors, they had listened, they had begged him to remain, they hadn't laughed at his tales, they'd promised to keep his secret. And like him, the Talmaska was old as the trees in the great forest. How long ago had it been? Before the London house, long before, when the old palazzo in Rome had been lightened still with candles. No records. They had promised no records in exchange for all he had told, which was to remain impersonal, anonymous, a source of legend and fact, of bits and pieces of knowledge from ages past. Exhausted, he had slept beneath that roof. They had comforted him, but in the final analysis, they were ordinary men, possessed of an extraordinary interest, perhaps, but ordinary short-lived, was struck by him, scholars, alchemists, collectors. Whatever the case, it was no good to have them in a dark time. To use Samuel's words, not with all they knew and kept within their archives, not good, and for some strange reason, his heart went out to this gypsy in the glen, and his curiosity burned as fire as ever regarding the Taltos, the witches. Dear God, the very lot of witches. When Remick came back, he had the fur-lined coat over his arms. Cold enough for this, sir. Cold enough for this, sir, he said, as he put it over the boss's shoulders, and you looked chilled, sir, already. It's nothing, he replied. Don't come down with me. There's something you must do. Send money to Claridge's Bridge in London. It's for a man named Samuel. The management will have no trouble identifying Samuel. He is a dwarf and he is a hunchback and has very red hair and very wrinkled face. You must arrange everything so that this little man has exactly what he wants. Oh, and there's someone with him, a gypsy. I have no idea what this means. Yes, sir. The surname, sir? I don't know what it is, Remick, he answered, rising to go and pull the fur-lined cape closer under his neck. I've known Samuel for so long. He was in the elevator before he realized that this last statement was absurd. He said too many things of late that were absurd. The other day, Remick had said how much he loved the marble in all those rooms, and he had answered, yes, I loved marble from the first time I ever saw it, and that had sounded absurd. In the wind howled in the elevator shaft as the cab descended at astonishing speed. It was a sound heard only in winter, and a sound which frightened Remick, though he himself rather liked it, or thought it amusing at the very least. When he reached the underground garage, the car was waiting, giving off a great flood of noise and white smoke. His suitcases were loaded. There stood his night pilot, Jacob, and the nameless co-pilot, and the pale, straw-colored young driver who was always on duty at this hour, and the only who really ever spoke. You are sure you want to make this trip tonight, sir? Asked Jacob. Is nobody flying? He asked. He stopped, eyebrows raised, hands on the door. Warm air came from inside of the car. No, sir, there are people flying. Then you're going to fly, Jacob. If you're frightened, you don't have to come. Where you go, I go, sir. Thank you, Jacob. You once assured me that we fly safely above the weather now, and with far greater security than a commercial jet. Yes, I did do that, sir, didn't I? He sat back on the black leather seat and stretched out his long legs, planted his feet on the seat opposite, with no man of normal height could have done in this long stretch limousine. The driver was comfortably shut away behind glass, and the others followed in the car behind. His bodyguards were in the car ahead. And time is up. 1 hour. Yeah. 1 hour 46 seconds. We shall continue from there next time. I'm so tired, but I think I've been able to. My screen protector is acting up. Yeah, I think I've been able to read for 1 hour. And so guys, we'll stop there and hopefully continue tomorrow. Yeah. Till then, keep it locked, and I'll see you later.